Hi guys, Moon Fiction here. If you enjoy the video, feel free to like and subscribe. Now no more wasting time. Let's start. What if Deku had stayed quirkless Part 2? Akaza only smiled. Yeah, I heard you wanna be a hero, but come on, he said in a smug, patronizing tone. You're quirkless. You don't seriously think you can be a hero just because you're good at martial arts? Fighting against someone hand-to-hand versus fighting a quirk is a different ball game, don't you think? Izuku took in the older kid's words before responding to the words he's heard so many times. I firmly believe I can be a good hero. I can help and save people with a smile, just like All Might. I'm fully aware there are powerful villains in this world, but that's why I train so hard to be what I wanted. Tabihara-sensei made it clear from day one I'd have to work harder than anyone else. So let's have a quick spare. You've got time, right? He said in a goading and patronizing way. Yeah, let's have a quick spare. I've got half an hour before my next class. Izuku said, fire in his eyes. The two boys walked to a forested area behind the compound. They found a wide open clearing surrounded by trees. The ground was flat and it wouldn't be a problem staying grounded. They stepped in, walking about 10 feet away from each other, and since Izuku was already warm, he gave Akaza a few minutes to warm up. So Yama, Izuku thought, he's been my senpai since I joined the dojo. We haven't really talked or had any real interactions outside of sparring and talking about fighting. He was also one of those who usually lived at the dojo during summer break, and he always trained hard. He has a really strong quirk that'll hit me hard if I'm too careless, so I better keep on my toes. You know, the only reason you've ever beaten me is because I'm not allowed to use my full strength. You, walking around feeling so satisfied with yourself after a win, thinking that you're strong when the environment makes it look that way. When in actuality you're just a quirkless weakling. Weakness completely disgusts me. The weak have no rights. All they can do is be hopelessly crushed by the strong. So when I see a quirkless weakling like you feeling himself because of how strong he only thinks he is, it really pisses me off. He said, those last words laced with venom. So Yama, Izuku began, I'm still not entirely sure what I've done to make you so angry at me. All I've done is train hard every day in order to be what I want to be. I've gained a lot of strength over the 4 years I've been training at the dojo, and I'm not as strong as I want to be. But I'm getting stronger all the time. You said the weak have no rights, that they can only be crushed by the strong. Well. He looks at his open palm and makes a fist. From day one, the strength I gained here was meant to protect the weak from the strong that want to hurt them. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but I will never apologize for that. Akaza only chuckled at his response. A weakling's delusional nonsense. It really isn't funny anymore. You can't help or save anyone when you're weak, he said, taking a karate stance as the greenette did the same. The two boys stare each other down. The tension in the air was almost palpable as two waging ideals were about to clash. Inching closer to each, they lunged at the same time, with Izuku scoring the first strike. He landed several hard hits to Akaza's face. The older boy tried to counter, but his punches were deflected, creating an opening for Izuku to hit him with a high kick that sent him 10 ft in the air. His punches are brutal and his leg power is insane, was the older boy's only thought. Spinning to correct himself in the air, he cocks his fist back and throws a punch in the direction of Izuku. A ball of air comes flying at the younger boy's head at high speeds. He shifts his body to the right, just able to dodge. His blast left a noticeable imprint on the ground where it landed. Akaza lands, since you're such a nerd for quirks, I'm sure you know about my quirk air blast. I'm able to gather the air around me and fire it as a ball of compressed air. He ended this explanation by sending a barrage of air punches at Izuku. The green boy dodges as he does. He also hears the sound of the missed shots, slamming into and splintering the trees behind him, letting him know it would be a bad idea to get hit by one of these. 10 seconds of rapid fire, he finally gets a break and takes this moment to blitz his opponent. He was on him faster than Akaza expected. The two exchange a flurry of punches, both punching, blocking, dodging, countering. Izuku blocks a right punch with his left, using the same move from earlier as Akaza tries to hit him. With a left he swats his hand down with his right, then strikes his chin. Izuku chops a pressure point in his right shoulder with his left hand. Centering himself, putting all his momentum into one punch, he slams his right fist into his senpai's gut, still standing but holding his stomach, and arching his back in pain. Izuku delivers a flying kick to his chin, taking him a couple feet off the ground and landing hard on his back. Okay, you're not as weak as I originally thought, but no way am I weaker than a quirkless reject like you. Izuku stayed silent, remaining in his stance. After finally managing to stand properly, the look on his face was only one he had ever seen a Kakan, and it was pure rage. Facing off once again, Akaza went for a side kick that Izuku blocked, but his technique had become sloppy from his anger. This allowed Izuku to land 3 punches to the face, followed by a roundhouse to his left side. It hit him hard, spinning from the impact. He pulls his fist back and fires the air punch, hitting Izuku's chest at close range. Oh. That feels like a bomb exploding off my chest, he thought, tanking the hit, sliding back and trying to recover. But before he could, Akaza was on him again, going for a Yamazuki, both fists sending air punches connected with his face and stomach. The point-blank blasts were intense, sending Izuku flying. He flipped and rolled before stopping a good distance away from his opponent. Izuku just laid there on the ground, his body aching from the sting of just 3 hits. Man, this quirk hits hard, he thought. He could feel the warm wetness of blood sliding down his forehead, and it stung like crazy just to try to move any part of his face, let alone talk. This hurts worse than any of Kakan's explosions, he said in his head, trying to get up, but the pain in his abdomen made that very difficult. His stomach was on fire, not just the stinging of his flesh, but each breath he took brought a wave of pain with it. Been practicing that move for years, wasn't expecting to have to use it on a weakling like you though. You should feel honored, he said as smugly as he could. What, are we done already? I let you get a couple of free shots, and you go down with just 3 blows. What a shame, he said, trying to belittle the younger boy as much as possible when in actuality he hoped he would stay down. His quirk, while strong, has its limits. His hands go numb the more he uses it, or the stronger the blast, and he just hit Izuku with his strongest one, so he can barely make a fist at the moment. Memories of the past 4 years of training run through the green boy's mind. He remembers all the effort, all the training, all the talks he's had with his masters, every good and bad moment, until one specific memory popped in. Tabihara-sensei telling him he could be a quirkless hero if he trained at the dojo, her smiling face showing absolute faith. Snapping back to reality, Izuku wills himself to stand, much to the shock and anger of Akaza. So I was still too gentle with you, a weakling's exercise in futility. Even with every inch of his face hurting, he wills himself to speak. A hero never gives up, no matter what. This is over, Izuku says with a fire in his eye. Yeah, for you, Akaza says with murderous intent as he stretches his left palm out while cocking back his right, wind gathering around it. Gathering himself, he spent a year on this training, and it was time to put it into practice in an actual fight. Locking eyes with each other, neither backing down, time appears to flow in slow motion. It happens, Akaza throws his punch and a ball of air is launched at blinding speeds, but not too fast for Izuku to see. In that same moment, Izuku kicks off the ground, propelling him forward at a speed faster than the ball of air, which he easily dodges. Akaza blinked once and Izuku's face was mere inches from his. Before he could even register this, Izuku focuses, channeling all his momentum in a punch that connects with the older boy's solar plexus. The pinkette falls, hitting the ground completely unconscious. Looking down at his beaten opponent, he gathers his words. Tabihara-sensei is always saying it, so Yama, the effort you put in is what you'll get back. You're right about one thing, you can't save or help anyone when you're weak. That's why I am here, and that's why I train so hard. I'll never have a cool, flashy quirk like yours, but I can be quirkless and still be strong. Being strong doesn't give you the right to beat down on others, and I hope one day you realize that. Well said, Izuku. A new voice chimed in from out of nowhere. Dropping down from a nearby tree came the form of Master Kizo. Sensei. A surprised Izuku stated. How long have you been here? From the beginning, I've been watching your entire exchange. I wanted to see how this turned out. Also, a master has no place interfering in their students' fight. It wasn't a fight, it was just a sparring match that got out of hand. It's cute that you think that. The master stated before popping Izuku in the chest. Ooh, WW. Now come on, let's get both of you to the clinic. Kizo stated in a calm, yet serious tone, leaving no chance for debate. Throwing Akaza on his shoulders, the trio walks to the medical clinic, ran by the masters that was just down the block from the compound. Izuku, with the exception of a decent cut on his forehead, was relatively ok. The master treated the cut, gave him some painkillers, and sent him to taekwondo training. After Izuku left, Akaza woke up, and upon remembering the past events, the only emotion on his face was that of complete anger. I lost. How did I lose? He angrily questioned himself through gritted teeth. Various ways. Kizo casually stated as he entered the room. You've got numerous bruises and contusions, you're lucky you're so tough. That kick could have fractured your chin. The master's words made the gears in his head turn, leading to a realization that made him angrier. You were watching. I was. I also heard everything you said. Do you want to explain yourself? He said in a serious, calm tone. All I did was speak the truth and try to make that idiot realize how weak he really is. And yet, who is the one in here covered in injuries after their loss? Whatever, he just got lucky. He said with venom, as his eyes still excluded anger. Is that so? Well, your injuries aren't that serious, so you're free to go. Akaza gets up to leave the room, but as he gets to the door. By the way, you're expelled from Rising Sky, never return. Kizo said, his tone still calm yet serious. Akaza turns around to look at the master with a narrow expression that is neither shocked nor angry. Any reason why? We don't condone your time here, and the path you're choosing to walk for yourself is one we can neither guide you on or watch over you from. Their eyes make contact one final time before the boy leaves, never to return. Aldera Elementary. It was the final day of classes before summer break, and all the kids were looking forward to moving on to having fun in the sun, and as for one final assignment, the students in one particular homeroom had to stand in front of the class and say what they wanted to be when they grew up. While some said doctors, teachers, mangakas, there was an unsurprising number of those who said heroes. While that wasn't too shocking, the declaration of one student left the class in a roar of laughter despite the teacher's protest. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I'm going to be a hero," he said with a wave of enthusiasm. He kept that even in the face of his classmates' resounding laughter at his goals as he returned to his seat. "Alright everyone, I'll see you all in the new semester, have fun and enjoy your break," their teacher stated before dismissing the class. Can you believe what Deku said in class today? That idiot is still going on about being a hero. One of Bakugou's lackeys, Hashiga, mentioned as a group of 4 were walking down the street after leaving school. He doesn't have quirk, but still says stupid things like that. Actually, it's getting kind of sad, Taiseki said. That quirkless loser's gonna learn one of these days. The only one who's gonna go to the best hero school around is me. He's got a lot of nerve putting himself on the same level as me, said the arrogant Katsuki Bakugou. I don't know, Tsubasa chimed in. He might not be so weak after all. What the hell are you talking about? Katsuki demanded to know. I mean, I was walking with my parents through the trail in the park a few days ago, and I saw him in a clearing off the trail practicing fighting moves. He looked really serious while he was doing it too. This time it was Hashiga's turn to speak. Now that you mention it, I've seen him down there too, but he wasn't doing fighting moves, he was sitting crisscross like an idiot. So the useless Deku thinks he can fight now. Bakugou's lips forming a devilish grin. Let me see for myself, show me where you saw him. Izuku, while normally would be at the dojo, his masters had to take a trip out of town, and so all classes were cancelled for today. That was why he was here, at his personal training spot. Just because he wouldn't learn anything new today wasn't an excuse to not practice at all. So here he was practicing his Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu techniques. He was getting in the zone with his warm-up exercises, and every jab, knee, and elbow strike felt great. They were fast and hard hitting, and his kicks were even more so. His mind was calm. The sound of the flowing stream close by and the tranquility it brought continued to make this the perfect training spot, his own little sanctuary until it wasn't. Oi Deku, came a voice that the greenette knew all too well. Turning around he could see Kakan, Taiseki, Hashiga, and Tsubasa coming down the hill towards him. I was so focused on my training I didn't even hear them coming, Izuku thought, upset with himself. Hey everyone, what's up? So, here you come down here to practice fighting moves? Kakan said mockingly. Well, it's not just my moves, I also like to come down here to meditate. This is a very tranquil spot. Why do you practice down here anyway? Hashiga asked. Didn't you just hear me say that it's a tranquil spot? He meant, why are you training at all, you useless nerd? Bakugou said, shooting an angry glare at him. Why else would I be training? So I can be strong enough to be a hero. I'm strong now, but I've got a long way to go. The training during summer break is always intense, but when I'm done I'll be way stronger than I am now. You, strong? What the hell are you even talking about, Deku? No way in hell is a quirkless loser like you strong. Let's be honest, you've been practicing in secret for who knows how long because you think you'll somehow beat me. Guess what, nerd? Your quirkless ass will never match up to me, he smugly yelled. But if you think you can, come on and try it. His hands now forming tiny explosions. Izuku could only look at his once childhood friend. How does my training to be stronger have anything to do with you? All 4 boys looked at the greenette in shock, especially the explosive blonde. The hell you just say to me, Deku? Like I said, Kakan, how does my training to be stronger have anything to do with you? The greenette repeated his previous words with a calm voice and expression. I started on this journey to gain the necessary strength and skill to be a hero. Everything I've acquired up till now was for that goal. None of it was for the purpose of beating someone else, or showing how great I am. Bakugou was fuming at that response. You think you're better than me, don't you, Deku? I didn't say that. You came down here to try to pick a fight because you heard I've been training and you need to satiate your ego, but that's not something I have any interest in doing myself. The blonde had had enough of the Deku's mouth. He charged at the boy, firing off an explosion with his right hand. It all happened so fast. Izuku sidesteps with the blast, completely missing him, and using the momentum of Kothan's attack he grabs his wrist with his right hand, hooks his arm past his elbow with his left. He gives him a little spin before sweeping both his legs and slamming him hard on the ground, still holding his right arm. Kakan, this is stupid, why did you attack me? The pain to his pride and body still reeling, he uses another explosion, forcing Izuku to let go. So all you can still do is body throws. Far from it. But we don't need to fight, Kakan, it's pointless. The blonde rushes again, letting off a flurry of explosions when he got within range. He was so busy, in fact, he didn't notice the other boy about to launch himself from a tree on his left side. When Kakan was about to fire explosions, Izuku had jumped to the side of a tree at his 2 o'clock. He was so fast that not one of the 4 other boys present saw it. Kicking off the tree, he goes flying at the unsuspecting Kakan. Shifting his body, he brings his left knee upward, and it connects to the side of the ash blonde head. Izuku looks down at the unconscious boy and sighs. He's unconscious. Can you 3 please take him home? I have more training to do. The other 3 boys did it without question, more out of fear than concern for their friend. After they left, Izuku had to sit down for some meditation to get his mind right, and it took over 40 minutes before he could get back to training. First Akaza, then Kakan. What is so bad about me wanting to be strong anyway? Why does everyone expect so little of me just because I don't have a quirk? Why do people have to be so mean about it? What's so bad about not having a quirk anyway? That doesn't mean everything. I can be quirkless and still be strong. No matter what anybody says, I will be a great hero like All Might. I just have to never lose heart and keep training. I can do this. I know I can. Izuku Midoriya is now 12 years old, and has come a very long way in his 5 years of training at the dojo. He has essentially completed his training in all of his disciplines, receiving his black belts in karate, taekwondo, and jiu-jitsu respectively, and as for Wing Chun and Muay Thai, he is very proficient. He even had his own nafuda added to the wall of students who completed their training at the dojo. It was such an accomplishment that he, Inko, and the masters went out for a celebratory dinner. Kizo insisted he had to treat his favorite disciple. The masters knew Izuku would never stop training and sharpening his skills, but were still surprised when he said he would keep coming back to the dojo to train. As Kizo has said many times, training never ends, and in his own words, he wasn't strong enough yet, and Rising Sky had become a second home to him. Good to see we're not done with you yet. There's still a lot left to teach you, kid. Michiko stated delightedly. Yes, you may even be ready to learn some of our personal techniques. Kizo said, both delighting and horrifying his student. Once again his training had become absolute hell. Michiko was trying to teach him something called the inner eye, a technique that allows the user to perceive and predict the movements of an opponent. If mastered, you can tell what someone is going to do even before they do it by taking in the overall visual of your opponent, becoming aware of breathing, slight movements, and their next attack. There are 2 ways of doing this. The first is to keep a calm mind and read your opponent. The second way is mentally hyping yourself to read an opponent. Both Kizo and Michiko figured Izuku would be best with the former method. Kizo had begun to teach Izuku a technique, in which he called the perfect defense. It's called the Sikuken, and it's a very handy and valuable technique to know. The principle involves controlling the entire radius around one's arms, basically making a spherical shield around the user. Controlling everything in that radius makes for excellent offense and defense, and there are 10 levels to learning it. Izuku added these new regimens to his training, though he knew it would be tough. But what was new about that? Crack. 31. Crack. 32. Crack. 33. Izuku, now 13 years old, was doing one of his usual training exercises. He was doing one-armed push-ups while his arms and legs were balancing on 2-foot posts, while Kizo used a small bamboo stick to swat at his arm and knock him off his balance at unpredictable times. This was a form of training he's done many times, but as of the past few weeks his entire body has been acting weird. 50. Izuku, having finished 50 reps with each hand and dodged all of Kizo's swings, it was time to move on to training with Michiko. Today she had the usual, using cones and having him jet from one to another at various angles, and tossing in one or several balls to make him catch before they hit the ground. His training had once again stepped up, and his morning routine had become harder as well. Now he was doing 300 push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and a 25 kilometers run. It was harder when he lived at the dojo during breaks because they would make him train with weights and Kizo would join him on his run. But not in a running partner kind of way, more of a tying a big tire to Izuku while Kizo sat on it as he ran kind of way. He hadn't acclimated to the new routine, but rolled with it anyway because according to his master it was a hell he brought upon himself. After finishing his training for the day, Izuku's body was in complete agony, and while he normally welcomed it, the intense pain that ran through his body with every movement he made just made it hard to even function. But he was still moving his body somehow. It was almost as if he were a ghost. He keeps moving despite the pain he's in, but it's like he doesn't feel it. Cough cough, he buries his face into his arm. Taking note of the blood stains on his shirt, this had become another recurring oddity over the past couple of weeks. Flashback 2 months ago. Izuku was currently doing a rather unorthodox exercise. He was walking upside down across the edges of several giant pots and doing an upside down push-up at the center of each while Michiko sat, crisscrossed on his feet. He had done 9 laps of this already, and he had 11 more to go, but when he went for a push-up to end his 10th lap it happened. Crack. The teacher sitting on his feet noticed as every time Izuku went for another rep, she would hear the same cracking sound. His reps also seemed to be getting harder, but she figured it was just because she was sitting on him, and they increased his laps. She took note of how she still heard the cracking sound while she ran Izuku through his speed drills. Her student insisted he was fine, so she left it alone that day, but the next day, when he was training with Kizo, Izuku was doing full upside-down sit-ups while his teacher fans a small fire below him. 100 inches, Izuku said, flipping himself off the bar to face his sensei. So you wanna go fishing? I can move on to the next level of learning the Sikuken. I just need to cough, cough, cough. Izuku instinctively buries his face in his arm and is shocked by what he sees on his shirt. That can't be good, said a wide-eyed Izuku turning to face his master. What is it? Kizo asked, concerned among seeing the blood on his student. They immediately went down to the clinic. Though Izuku said he was fine, his teacher wasn't taking any chances and forced him to do a court scan which surprisingly showed no internal bleeding, and he isn't showing any symptoms of known diseases, so they dropped it and got back to training. They went to the river to catch fish as part of his Sikuken training. 2 days later, Izuku is doing some code training with his masters. He is currently on a post, doing one-legged squats while holding two heavy jars with his hands fully stretched out to the sides while his masters look at him worriedly, not because he started struggling after his 30th rep, but because of the very concerning, cracking sound they were hearing on every representative. Crack. 39. Crack. 40. Crack 41. Izuku grunted as continued his workout. Michiko looks to her brother saying what's been on her mind for the last few minutes. You add no better than me, so is it normal for his bone to be cracking like that? And even more so, should they be this loud for us to hear them? No it isn't, and no they should not. But Izuku says he's fine, and I've inspected him and given him an X-ray, and there is nothing wrong with his bones or joints. He said casually, still unable to make sense of his disciple's changes. After finishing his 50th rep, Izuku drops down from the post, letting the pain have him as he falls on his back. You ah, kid? Yeah, sensei, just need to lay here for a while. Rest is good. But the cracking noises and the coughing up blood don't concern you at all? Not that it's not concerning, I just feel fine. I'm in pain all the time, but it's a good kind of pain. I don't mind it, it just means I'm getting stronger. Kizo could only chuckle and smile at that response. Yeah, sure, let's just chalk this up to you being on the verge of breaking your limits. You've done it before, after all. Just let us know if it gets too tough, Izuku. Will do. And flashback. Izuku was currently sitting in the main house with his two masters having some tea and relaxing after a long day of training. Today he did something he didn't do too often, which was having a sparring match with one of his teachers. Michiko beat the crap out of him under the guise that it was training for his inner eye, but she was too fast and hit him way too hard for him to predict any of her movements. He was also covered in several bee stings on his body from his Sikuken training. Kizo took him to a cliff where he had to balance himself on 3 rocks while his master poked a hole in a bee's nest, and they went straight for him and not his master. Dodging the bees was part of the training. This was a very long day. Izuku, taking a sip of tea, looked at Kizo. Master, I know you said as far as my disciplines go, there's nothing else to learn, but do you think there is anything I'm still missing? Kizo took in his student's words, actually surprised this question came up, and the fact that it took so long. Izuku, admittedly I'm surprised we're even having this conversation, especially considering how long we've been training together. At this point, if there's anything you're missing, it would be your own style. My own style. Yes, your own style. Despite the fact that you've learned several martial arts, you still don't have your own style. You tend to use your disciplines interchangeably when you should invent a style suited for you that incorporates everything you've learned. Izuku thinks back to all the training he's done for the past 6 years and ponders what his style could be. It sounds pretty hard. No, it's actually really easy. Kizo bluntly stated before taking a sip of tea. Wait, really? The boy asked, shocked. Yes. Came in a voice he registered as Michiko's, and then came the pain. Because with all that you've been learning from day 1, inventing your own style would have been so laughably simple, it's frustrating you haven't done it by now. The brown-haired woman stated as she continued, hitting him with a baton. Okay. I'm sorry, I'll get on it. He pleaded, shielding his head while Kizo smiles, watching this madness unfold. 1 week later. Just as the masters said, the training to create his own style was incredibly easy, and training and sparring with the masters made it even easier. He now has his own fighting style that incorporates all his disciplines, and according to Kizo, he's close to finding his Sikuken. That's why he's here training in the woods behind the compound, perfecting his form to its utmost brilliance. The pain of each day has faded a bit, the cracking in his bone has stopped, and Hasner coughed up blood in a while, so safe to say he got over whatever that was about. He was throwing a series of punches, kicks, chops, incorporating knee and elbow strikes and jiu-jitsu motions. The speed of his attacks were a blur to all who couldn't follow them. He finished his warm-up and got serious. Using some image training, he threw attacks as if he were actually fighting someone. He attacked, blocked, and countered his mind opponent, then going for a finishing punch with all his strength. What happened next shocked him. Boom! A shockwave blasted from his fist, the wind pressure tearing through the forest in front of him, uprooting trees and leaving a scar of destruction that stretched for at least 60 meters. Whoa! 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 That happened. How did that happen? How did I do that? Wait, did my quirk just manifest? Is this because of my training? I gotta figure this out. Sensei. Finding Kizo and bringing him back to the scene, the master was shocked at what he found, a line of destruction that according to Izuku came from one punch. He asked Izuku to repeat this same attack, and upon doing so the shockwave produced increased the line of destruction to 70 meters. Odd, very odd. How does it feel when you do that, Izuku? The master asked curiously. It just feels like I'm just throwing a powerful punch. The boy said, still in shock at the whole situation. Try a powerful kick. Doing as his master said, Izuku performed a roundhouse kick with all his strength. What followed next was a blade of wind that went flying straight ahead, slicing down several trees before dissipating. Interesting, very interesting, Kizo said, holding his chin. I'm no quirk doctor, but given what I know about quirk tests and having X-rayed you on several occasions, I'm pretty sure this isn't a quirk. Go see a quirk doctor, but first let's run some tests here first. I have a theory. What kind of tests? Kizo looked at his student with a warm, welcoming smile before speaking. Let's fight. What? Izuku said, slightly horrified. Relax, Izuku, I won't be going all out, but I want you to. These changes in you are interesting. As your teacher, I want to know what you are and could be capable of, he said in a calm, reassuring tone. The master and student prepared to fight where they now stood. Luckily, this area was a pretty wide open space, even more so now that Izuku had leveled a good bit of it. They both take their respective stances, staring at each other for a moment, and it began. Izuku's speed technique had drastically improved over the past 2 years. Now his speed was just below Mach 4. He rushed toward his master and threw a series of punches at him, but the master caught and blocked every blow, catching one of Izuku's punches with his flat palm and using his momentum to bring him closer. Then bringing his other arm to his student's waist, Kizo flips him over his shoulder, tossing him into the air. Izuku spins in the air to correct himself, bending his knees when he lands, looking forward where his master should be, only to be met with a knee to the forehead, sending him flipping a good distance away. He gains his footing and jumps into the air. Looking down, he scans the ground for his master, finding him standing in the same place. He kneed him. Landing a few feet from his teacher, Izuku gets back in his stance. He charges the master again using a combo of kicks, but Kizo blocks his side kick, tossing it to the side before sweeping Izuku's balancing leg, making him hit the ground hard. Izuku flips back up, going after Kizo with a series of fast, powerful blows which the master dodges or deflects, speeding up his assault. Izuku gets closer and closer to the master. In one circular motion, Izuku launches a hard punch to his teacher's chest. Putting his left hand behind his right, Kizo catches it. Tossing his hand up, Izuku is left open for two flying front kicks to the chin, bringing him off the ground, and in that same motion, Kizo spins in the air and connects a flying side kick to Izuku's gut, sending him back and knocking the air out of him. Izuku was nowhere near tired or done. After standing back up, he rushed his sensei again. He gets closer than Kizo had let him get before. He throws a right punch that is deflected, then a left that gets blocked. Izuku connects a quick kick to Kizo's shin that clearly stuns him. He takes this moment to finally strike back. Grabbing his master's head, he pulls him into a kowloy. But instead of pulling his head back, the master pulls it forward then down, the student's knee completely missing. Kizo does a full flip and his feet lock behind Izuku's head. "You're doing good. Keep it up, young one," he said before pulling back. He slams him head first into the ground. Getting back on his feet, Kizo backflips, landing about 10 feet from his still down disciple, whose head had left a noticeable impact crater in the ground. Was that too much? The older man wondered, but his worries were proven unfounded when Izuku jumped back up. They went back to trading blows. Not only were Izuku's attacks strong and fast to begin with, but they seemed to be getting stronger and faster. With their difference in skill, dodging or deflecting his student's attacks wasn't too difficult a task, but he was finding blocking them undesirable. Izuku throws a chop that gets deflected. The master spins and connects a reverse elbow to the back of his student's head, sending him to the ground once again. Izuku flips forward and comes back again with a flurry of punches that get deflected, ending it with an elbow strike that gets caught. He was just barely able to use a backflip to dodge the high front kick that was coming for his face. Unbeknownst to Izuku, his feet had made impressions in the ground when he landed. Calming his mind, and though it wasn't perfect, Izuku attempted to use the Sikuken. His master, noticing the change in his student, also initiated the technique, slowly inching towards each other, with their eyes locked. Once within range of each other, they attacked at once. It was a blur of punches, blocks, counters, and dodging at such a close range that any untrained spectators would be mesmerized and mistake this for a serious fight. Going at this for over a minute, the speed and power of his attacks as well his reaction times increasing, Izuku uses the inner eye. Seeing the full range of his master and becoming honed in on his rhythm, speed, and technique, and even his breathing, Izuku finds reading and predicting his master's moves easier, especially since neither of them have broken eye contact since the initial exchange. Stopping a right punch with a flat palm and dodging a left, he catches a right chop, then hooking his master's elbow, spinning and pulling on his gi, he goes for a slam, but to his shock he only sees a shirt. Sensing the incoming strike, he was just able to jump out of the way of his master's incoming kick from above. The two get back into stance and Kizo rushes first with Izuku just barely able to block and dodge his strikes. He gets a hand on both his master's wrist, but before he could do anything, Kizo grabs onto him, and he takes two knees and a backflip kick to the chin, forcing him to let go and sending him in the air. Izuku flips to correct and comes at the master again. "Stop," Kizo calmly said with an outstretched hand. Izuku had to take a couple breaths to relax and fully register his master words as he was still in battle mode. "Wait, are we done with the test?" "Yes, I've seen all I need to see." "Look around, Izuku." The master gestured to the area, and upon inspection of their battleground, the greennet could see craters, impressions, and cracks in the earth, as if an earthquake came through all around them. The green-haired boy just looked around dumbfounded. "How did this happen?" he asked, genuinely wanting to know how this happened. "This happened mostly from the shock waves from our fight," Kizo calmly assures his student. "You've advanced far in such a short time, Izuku, though I was holding back. I can tell from fighting you that your body has changed considerably, where once your fists felt like an unmovable mountain that will forever stand, and now your fists feel like a vast ocean with bottomless depths. The master had a theory, but medical science couldn't prove it, and if it was true, Izuku would have to get far stronger to test it, and they would need to confirm that he was still quirkless. Holding his chin and gathering his thoughts, he looked at his student who was still processing his teacher's words. "Izuku, have you ever heard of the limiter?" he asked. "No, sensei, this is the first time I'm hearing of it." Kizo gathered his words before responding to his student. "Well, the theory is that every living being has a certain limitation to their growth. No matter how hard a creature tries, it can't grow stronger than its biological limitations allow it to. Human beings are kind of a small exception to this, as unlike other animals, we can change ourselves, be stronger, run faster, jump higher, but we all each have our limitations. Now, this is just a theory. But I think with the extensive training you've done, essentially every day for the past 6 years, you've managed to remove yours." The greenette, upon hearing his master's words, brought on one specific question. "So, does that mean my power is infinite?" he asked genuinely, wondering what his master thought. Giving his student a stern look before speaking, "No, I wouldn't go that far. Your strength isn't infinite, but your ability to get stronger is far beyond what should be humanly possible." "I see, so what now?" "Obviously you get stronger and refine your technique, but not so strong that you can't control it," he said in a stern voice, ending this statement by pointing in the direction of the path of destruction he had made almost 40 minutes ago. "But don't forget to go see a quirk doctor ASAP," the master stated before they began to walk back to the compound. This is the end of part 2. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. If you want, of course. I can't force you even if I wanted. Anyway, bye bye.